Protesters are demonstrating all across Israel right now after a strike on a Gaza hospital killed 5 journalists. They're among at least 20 people killed and dozens injured in the attack. Now the Israeli Prime Minister is calling it a tragic mishap. ABC News Chief International Correspondent James Longman and ABC News contributor, former Deputy Assistant Secretary for Defense of the Middle East, Mick Mulroy, have more on that. Hi, James. What's the latest from these protests in Israel?
Well, these protests have been mounted by the families of the hostages still in Gaza, and it is just the latest chapter in an ongoing push and pull between the Netanyahu government and the families of the hostages. This day of anger is scheduled to last all day. These families have organized groups to block major highways, shut down businesses, they're burning tires, and there's a big vigil planned for later tonight at Hostage Square. And their issue is they feel that the Netanyahu government is not doing enough to bring the hostages home. There is currently a deal on the table. It would call for a 60-day truce with a partial release of some of the hostages. A reminder, there are 50 still inside Gaza, of which we believe 20 are still alive. And the families of the hostages quite simply believe that if there's a chance to bring just one of these people home, well, the government should take it. And they believe that Netanyahu is just trying to drag this war out. People may not realize, but he's currently fighting corruption charges. He's appearing in court, and they think that it's the office of Prime Minister and the immunity that that office provides him that is trying to that means he's trying to extend this war, and keep himself in power, and that his focus is not on the lives of the hostages. Now, he obviously completely refutes that. He says he needs all of the hostages out at once, but for the families of the hostages, that is quite clearly not enough.
Mick, President Trump indicated to our Rachel Scott that this conflict would be over in 2 to 3 weeks. Are Israel and Hamas that close to a peace deal?
Well, Diane, we should all hope so for the good of the hostages that are still in custody and the people in Gaza, the innocent civilians. But everything that the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, is doing now at the direction of the Netanyahu government indicates that that's not the case, that this is going to be escalated substantially, and they're going to move toward what they're claiming will be a full occupation of Gaza, focusing specifically on Gaza City.
James, what do we know so far about these 5 journalists killed in Gaza?
Well, this is one of the deadliest single strikes on a group of journalists since this war began. This was a group of international freelancers working for organizations like Reuters, the AP, Al Jazeera. In fact, I think it's the 10th person working for Al Jazeera that has been killed in this war so far. And some of them were really quite high profile. Because Israel stops international journalists like me from going into Gaza, we all have to rely on these local journalists to keep us informed. And many of them become household names inside Gaza. One of them, 33-year-old Mariam Dagger, she actually has been posting on Instagram about attacks on journalists which are becoming more frequent. You and I, Diane, spoke just 2 weeks ago about an attack that killed 6 journalists outside another hospital. And the allegation that's leveled at Israel is that they're trying to kill journalists because they don't want the world to know what's going on. And this particular instance, there was a double tap, which means they struck the hospital once, they waited for people to get there, and then they struck the hospital again. Israel says they're not trying to kill civilians.
Mick, the IDF dropped leaflets into Gaza City today telling people to move. What do you make of that?
Well, it looks like, Diane, this is all part of the process, encircling the city, doing preparatory strikes, now dropping leaflets in preparation for a movement in, an assault, if you will, on Gaza City, which, of course, is going to be very violent, very deadly. It's where the Hamas holdouts are likely to be, and potentially where the hostages are as well. So this is going to be a very significant military operation. It's going to displace a lot of Gazans, and it's going to cause the humanitarian crisis to only increase.
All right, James Longman, Mick Mulroy, thank you.